Welcome back. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to add an interesting feature to your Takinta interface. And that is a simple message box which you can use to output information to your user. Every GUI includes inputs and outputs. Some of the input features you've looked at so far include buttons, text boxes, and later on we'll learn how to add menus. And we mainly output by displaying labels in the window. Later on you'll learn how to add images if you want to. Message boxes let you display a quick message on the screen like this. You can also use them to get a simple yes/no answer with a button click, and we'll learn about that in the next presentation. The message will stay on the screen until the user clicks OK. That means the message isn't permanent in the way that a label on the window is, but it does mean that the user has to acknowledge it. They have to click on OK or the program won't continue. So it's a good way of making sure that your user has noticed an important message. We have to use a special module that's part of Takinta in order to create message boxes. The module is called takinta.messagebox. That's quite a lot to type over and over again. So I import it like this. Import takinta.messagebox as MSG. I could have chosen anything, but MSG reminds me I'm talking about messages. And now I can use MSG as a command throughout my program, and it will just create a message box. So here's an example. I could type this line of code anywhere in my program, for instance, inside one of my procedures, msg.showinfo, and then I put two parameters inside the brackets. The first will appear as the title of the message box, and the second parameter will appear as the text. So if I ran this code, this is what I'd see on the screen. A box like this with a title, whatever title I've typed, and whatever message text I've typed. And that will stay on the screen until the user clicks on OK. In fact, Takinta offers three different message box styles. The one I just showed you is called show info, but you could also type show warning or show error, and you can see the three boxes that would appear. They're almost identical, it's just the little pictures different, and that might help you. That might be what you want in your program. So just choose one of those three commands. So let's look at an example of a real life use of the message box. I suggest you try this using the currency converter and then go on and try and apply it in your own program. This is an example of validation. So let's have a look at the one and only procedure in the currency converter program. You can see that we get pounds as a value from the interface, and we then convert that input into float data type. Now, you've got enough experience of Python to know that there's a problem there, which is if the user types some input that can't be converted into the float data type, you'll get an error message or your program might crash, and we want to avoid that, obviously. So what we would do using the skills that we've already learned in class would be to use exception handling. Here's one I did earlier. So we try to convert the pounds into the float data type, except if we can't, we just set it pounds as 0, and to be helpful, we show an error message on the screen, invalid currency value or something like that. I've used the print command there. Now, what would happen if we did that in our current project? Well, the answer is the error message would appear in the Python shell, which isn't all that useful because we're not working in the shell, we're working in the window. We could use a label in the window to show the error message. I think that's not ideal for two reasons. One is, unless we're careful, that error message would just sit there in the window. We'd have to write some extra code to get rid of it. And secondly, it's just quite a lot of work to create an extra label, format it, position it in the grid, create a variable, a control variable, link it. I haven't even said it all, and that's a lot of work. Instead, we just want a message to quickly appear on the screen. We can just use the message box. So this is what the code would look like when we've done that. All I've done is change that one line, the print line. Instead of print in the shell, it says MSG. Remember, that's my abbreviation for message box. So MSG dot show error. And error will be the title, and invalid currency value will be the message. And that's it. Can you see how much easier that is? It's more or less like a print command. And I do recommend you use it for all quick messages you want to output to the user. So let's have a look. What happens when we run that program? So here's our currency converter. And supposing I typed an X or something in that box, or a letter, or anything that can't be converted to a float data type, and I click the convert button, a message box would appear just telling me that it's an invalid value. And that message will stay there until I click OK, and then it will disappear. Job done. So I suggest you try that. Add validation to your currency input box using exception handling, which is very familiar code, and outputting the error message using message box. If you want an extension task on this, or to add to your own program, you can make a help button. It could say help, or it could have a question mark on it or something like that. Create a help procedure which is linked to the help button, and add a message box command in the help procedure. And the box should display some kind of helpful message, and that makes your program look like more thought has gone into it, and you're giving much needed help to your user. And it's good practice at using message boxes. I strongly recommend, in conclusion, that you use message boxes for all quick output tasks when you're using a GUI. In the next presentation, I'll talk about using message boxes to get simple yes/no inputs from the user. Bye for now.